Thanks, Steve. Pleasure to be here today. I thought I had 20 minutes when I got here this morning. I found I've only got 10, so it's pretty hard to cover a deep tech investment conversation in 10 minutes, but I'll do my best. So what is deep tech? Basically considered to be 12 main areas. They're on the screen. I'm not going to read through them all. But Innovyz focuses on 6 of those. They're the hard tech part rather than the soft tech part of deep tech, so more the materials and physical product side of deep tech. So who are Innovyz? We're the leading commercial group in Australia that licenses technologies from universities and research institutes and then spins them out into companies and then grows them. We do that in 2 ways with investors. One as a portfolio investment where people such as yourselves can get involved at the beginning and you become founding shareholders with us in these deep tech technologies, or later on in seed capital, Series A, pre-IPOs, things like that, you can get involved also. We are headquartered in Australia, founded in Australia about 14 years ago, but we also have offices in US, in Chicago, and we've just opened an office in Denver as well. Our ethos is turning great ideas into great companies. We do about 4 to 6 new techs in Australia and New Zealand every 12 to 18 months. And in the US, we've been doing about the same, but now we're growing faster over there. We'll be doing up to 10 every 12 to 18 months, new technologies. And the objective is just to bring them into a system, into a machine that knows how to commercialise deep tech technologies. This slide's a little bit old. We're closer to 90 companies now that we've commercialised, a little over $750 million raised for those companies. And the nice thing to know from an investor point of view, on a portfolio approach, 47.8% IRR, which is good figures in anyone's language. You may have seen some of our companies before that we've taken from a research in a university or CSIRO and through to ASX listing. There's just 3 of them. What's interesting about these technologies is that nearly all of them qualify for ASX status. If you don't know what ASX status is, it's a ruling that the ATO has given to enable investors to invest in early stage technology and get a tax offset up front. So if you invested $100,000, $20,000 is going to come off your tax bill in that year. On top of that, if that technology exits in say 5 to 10 years, you don't pay any capital gains. So it's a tax-free investment. Now, to get ASX status, it's not easy. You've got to go through a 100-point qualification check to do so. It's easy to get 50, 60, 70 points. Those last, 20 or 30 points can be a little bit difficult sometimes. Because we've done so many of these, a separate ruling's been given to Innovyz, and we automatically get 50 points for any investment that we make into early stage innovation from research institutes and universities. So nearly everything we do and everything you invest with us is going to be CGT, tax-free, and you're going to get that tax offset. I'm going to flick through a couple of slides because this was a 20-minute presentation. I'm just going to pause here. I know this is the busiest slide you're going to see all day, but this is actually 9 slides on one. And this is just to give you a bit of an indication of how we go about de-risking early stage investment in deep tech, because early stage in deep tech, we're talking at university stage, is high risk. So how do you go about de-risking that? So we employed a few years ago one of the top leading engineers from NASA. He came and worked with us for 2 or 3 years, and he headed up our science committee. So we have a science committee that reviews all technologies before we even consider onboarding them. And he together with our professor here in Australia, professor of material science here, they developed this process. Now you see just the top left, there's some blue boxes there. That's called the Hellmire Catechism, and that was put together by Dr. Hellmire from DARPA. So that's the Deep Research Institute for the US military. And it really looks at, what is the technology, what's new about the technology, why is that important, what's it going to cost to get to commercial activity, what does a minimum viable product look like, what are the risks involved, and what does success look like. And so we look at all of those things before we look at onboarding a technology. We need to understand what that looks like. And then we look at the process of, have I got a pointer here? Yeah, I do. So this is a process by which we look at how you get from raw product through to your minimum viable product. What's the process? Are there existing manufacturing processes in play which are just off the shelf that we can use, or do we need to look at some new materials and new ways of doing that? And right through to, this is a landscape map, an IP landscape map. You might see a little red dot there. For this example of what we're looking at here, that red dot is a patent in a landscape of thousands of different patents. And that tells us where we sit in comparison to every other technology around us. And then we look at that white space around us and we figure out, well, who owns those patents in that area? And what gap could we fill with this technology for those companies? And in this case down here, these are the companies that have got the most patents in that area. You probably can't read that, but they're companies like Thermo Fisher and Waters and these sorts of large medical companies. And so we know already before we onboard them who our likely development partners are going to be when we onboard a technology. So the first 9 months is the 1, 2, and 3. So it's about forming the company. And if you're a part of the portfolio, you become a founder, you get founding shares. Then it's about the team development. Then it's about how we plan to scale the business and who we need to onboard to plan to scale the business. And then at that stage of those 6 companies we've onboarded, we might decide to not go forward with a couple. We might give them back to the university and say, do some more development on it, and we'll look at it again in another couple of years. The others will then open up to seed investment, and our investors who are part of the portfolio obviously get first rights to invest. But generally, there's about 20% left over where we can go out and offer it to other investors as well. And then we plan the growth and exit of what we're going to do with that technology, and then we wrap it with the compliance and the governance required. So Innovyz is really the hub and the spoke of every business that we start. We are the shared services, so we do the legal, the accounting, the HR, the corporate governance, the financial modelling, business modelling, investor relations, mentoring. Basically, we run the business, we lead the board, we manage all the governance structures. So you haven't got people who haven't grown deep tech companies before. You've got an experienced team that's done it tens and tens of times before. You're not backing an unknown quantity. I'm just going to quickly, because I'm getting close to my 10 minutes, just quickly race through 4 that we're raising money for at the moment. There's 8 that we'll be raising money for in the next quarter. I'm just going to give you a one-liner to show you the types of technologies that we attract. So we get exclusive deal flow because we get in before anyone else. VCs, etc., they don't look at research from universities that are at a low TRL level. We get in there, we do the heavy lifting, and that means we get opportunities that no one else gets. TQ transistors is a perfect example of that. It's a semiconductor technology, it's a new transistor, it's a quantum transistor that will basically enable transistors to run at 10 to 100 times less energy. What does that mean? Well, you may have read in papers or heard on the media that the energy crisis that we're about to see in the next 10 to 15 years is completely driven by computers. We're going to fall off a cliff. We'll have to start turning things off by the mid-30s. We just cannot produce enough energy to run our computers. This is a solution for that. Everyone we've shown this to in Silicon Valley, anywhere, has wanted to jump on board. We've just onboarded the global head of all commercial activity from IQE. They're the largest supplier of semiconductor wafers and semiconductor materials in the world. He's come on to be our technical and commercial lead. The other person we've onboarded is another man who's taken a microelectronics company from startup through to billion-dollar exit at Qualcomm and went inside and ran that division for 4 years. He's now our project lead in Silicon Valley. So if you want to have a little more of a chat about that, I was planning to go through a little more details, but please feel free to come and have a chat to us at our desk. Energy is a new supercapacitor, or ultra capacitor, you might know them as. That's an energy storage device that takes in energy 100 times faster than a battery and releases it 100 times faster. We've just developed the first graphene cathode ultra capacitor. It has double the energy density of the world's next best supercapacitor, and we're doing trials with some of the largest companies in the world. So please come and have a chat to us about that. Coniform is a new materials technology. It's a first man-made engineered natural fibre material for composites for plastics. So it's to go in with, to reinforce plastics and make plastics lighter. Think of auto industry, all of your internal dashboards and all your plastics and things. So this makes it about 30% lighter, makes it stronger, and it's the first recyclable reinforcement for plastic in the world. We've done trials with Ford, Toyota, BMW, Renault, and it's really, we're about to do our first seed raise now. DrugSense. DrugSense is the world's first point of use confirmatory drug test. So the drug test that you may already know about that police do by the roadside or workplaces do, that's an indicative test. It's actually not a confirmatory test. It has to go off to a lab after that, and it takes 48 hours to come back with a confirmatory test. This does a confirmatory test in under 10 minutes. And so this means that pilots, before they start a shift, could have a drug test. Bus drivers, truck drivers, mining equipment operators, surgeons, they could all have a drug test confirmed on site before they start shift. So this is a $17.1 billion industry. We believe that this product will absolutely change the industry. Our obtainable market for this, we believe, is already $9.1 billion in the analysis that we've already done. So the other exciting thing about it is, apart from it being so much faster, it's about 10 times cheaper than existing drug tests as well. So please feel free to come and have a chat to myself. I've also got my CEO here, Derek Lobban. We're in the second door as you just come in, first desk on the right, and it'd be a pleasure to meet and talk with you today. Thank you so much.